Hello. So welcome to this live stream. I'm just going to do a quick little thing. I had promised Patreons they'd answer their questions. Didn't get quite as many as I expected, so I decided to also include a little bit behind the scenes on Vatican II in a year on the podcast as a start off, and then I'll go through the questions. This podcast really came to me back in 2023. I was listening to Catechism of the Year with Father Mike Schmitz, and I started thinking, what would be the next things on Bible in a year? And I started thinking things also, hey, what could I do at the same time? And I'm not as smooth as Father Mike, but I'm a little more of a nerd intellectual there. And so I thought, hey, why don't we do something like read all the documents of Vatican II in a year? I went to the math, it made sense. And that was when so with that, I did all that math. The math made sense. It was like 2 paragraphs a day. When I looked at further, it was like 425 words a day, somewhere in that range. And then I'm like, okay, that makes sense. And it took me a bit. I had to get permissions from the Vatican to use the documents and things like that. And so it took me a bit. I had submitted to a few other places, but SQPN Starquist is the one who took it up. So that's who I'm with. And so that was determined like the beginning of November. We figured that out. And it took me a while to go through with that and go through all the details of how I was gonna do it. And so I've been recording it. I had a few audio issues the first few days. I think it was a little error on my part. I'm still getting used to it. I run this through the setup here is so SQPN paid for most of this. So I have a microphone, I have a cord, and then I have what's called Vocaster One, which is kind of a podcast microphone, fixer upper, and that goes into USB on the computer. And I don't want to pick it up because it might mess with things. And one of the things that's a challenge here with this Vocaster One is I can either really plug in my headphones to that or to my computer. And if I'm doing a stream with other people, like I'm interviewing someone, I can't hear them through the Vocaster One, but I can hear my own voice. Like right now, I can hear my own voice here and make sure there's no static. I think I didn't check that beforehand. And I also think the cable I had wasn't the best. And I switched out this cable here. Oh, you can't see it, like this cable here. So that was that. And right now I have about 18 episodes recorded. So there's only 5 have gone out, but 18 are recorded. For the daily ones, I just actually kind of power through them, a bunch of them at once. I've done the interview for Mirifica. I'm working on scheduling the one for the Magentium. Got some great guests for that. Got a sister and a lay professor for those two. And I've gone through the whole first chapter of Sacrosanctum on the liturgy. So that's the first 17. That's the other 17 other than Mirifica. And I just kind of power through them, do a bunch of those in the same day. I was doing a whole bunch yesterday to get ahead so that I can, I have some other things I'm working on, different editing and articles and things like that. And so those are the basic idea behind the scenes. I just recorded here. We use StreamYard. I think that's the name of it, right? It's something like that, right? StreamYard. And so I'm actually online when I record, even if I'm recording by myself, but it records on each end so that you can get the audio hopefully better. When I record myself, I do have a screen here, but it takes away my mouth as far as the video. So it provides a little bit better protection than just the head of the microphone. But when I'm actually going to be on video, it's not worth it because then you can't see my mouth. So that's the basic behind the scenes. How it's working. This is my room here. This is where, like in my religious house, this is my room. I have here, it's hard to see, but I have 4 puzzles that I've done, which are like churches in the background of different seasons. And so you can't see, here's the winter one. You can't see it. You can see the fall. I think this would be the fall one here. Yeah, this looks like fall. Then you can see at the back, it's like a spring one. And there's a summer one that I finished that's going to go up in that empty spot, but I still have to like glue it together and put it on a poster board and things like that. And so hopefully that will be up there soon. This is my religious, like over here, like it's not that big. Like literally my bed is like 8 feet this direction over there. Just, poverty. I do live religious poverty. I'm not I'm not here like, oh, let's live big or anything like that. So anyway, so that's a bit about behind the scenes, a bit about me. I'm here in our community in San Jose. We have a retreat center here, Our Lady of Santa Clara. Search for that. Our house is just on the same property, but it's actually accessed by a different street, so it's a totally different street address, even though it's on the same property. We have like a pretty large stairs between the two. Anyway, so that's a little bit behind the scenes on Vatican II in a year. The question I got was from Elizabeth Durack. And I'm going to read the question. It's a long question, so I might stop as I'm reading it just to make a few comments or to answer part. So while some autistic persons get married or are able to become part of some official concrete life that gives them formal connection to other people, many of those by vocation and temperament are celibate without any such bonds to other people. I think that's true. I think that is a challenge. In autistic persons whose disability often makes it more difficult to forge even the human connections they need for human well-being, do need some kind of stable connection to fellow Christians and to live their Christian vocation well. Yes, you do need some human connection. And I think oftentimes, connection with other fellow autistics. This is one of the big things I'm working on with autistic Catholics, is to form small groups of young adult and adult autistic Christians, because I think that can be one of the biggest things to help this out. And that's, and that's part of the reason I'm on the board there. I'm the president of the board, but I'm not the one who's working on every day. John Smith, I know that sounds like the most stereotypical name. He's the one who's the executive director, the one who's working every day. I'm more at the president of the board. My role is more like vision, mission, long-term strategy, not like day-to-day operation. But anyway, so and John recruited me for that, and I think that I really saw his mission. I've seen other groups who want to do autistic Catholic things, and unfortunately, a lot of them, sometimes it was unrealistic, whereas he has a very realistic thing. Let's start with a few small groups and move from there. Anyways, continuing on. And these needs are not really particularly to autistics and are not necessarily best met by disability-focused autism-specific helps. I think a group of autistic adults is different from like a kind of autistic service, a disability service, because I do agree it's the disability service, but I do think sometimes like small groups, like autistic small groups would be a big help here. Is there any way that can be imagined that those celibate people have some kind of support to stay connected across the lifespan, even in old age and sickness, and even if they're the kind of people who temperamentally don't easily make or maintain such connections and with other celibate lay Catholics, mutual welfare, spiritual growth, and the good of the church. So this is seeming, in different ways, some kind of thing, somewhat reminiscent of a religious life, but not precisely the same as religious life, because obviously there's a community life. I think for some autistic people, it's just too much, the community life or religious life. It's not for all of them. I think for a lot, it can be great and things, but I do think that there's no like formal structure in the church, but I do think that you can form intentional communities. You might start with a small group, like we're talking with autistic Catholics, but if say like 10 of you live in the same apartment block and you make some kind of commitment to meet every week and to do things together and kind of have those commitments, you can make those. The church has no objection to that, to kind of make even to make contract. We're going to stay with each other through thick and thin. I think something like that could be helpful. I know of several. My thing was published by Plow, which is Brudenhof. The Brudenhof are a Protestant group that kind of lives like that. I'm not going to get into example the top editors at Plow. It's and that seems like an attractive form of life. And then continuing on with Elizabeth's question, I feel frustrated that for some who can't join a third order or something like that, all the ways available to someone with no family of their own to protect others are pretty much ephemeral. Yes, I do think that there are a lot of ephemeral things. There are a lot of minor things. I think some of these intentional communities, Leila Bresco-Sargent's book on living the Benedict option could be helpful too, because it is also about intentional communities. It's on a practical level. That'd be another book. I don't remember the exact title of Leila Bresco-Sargent's book there, but if you search it on like her name, Lee is Leah, Labresco is just, and Sargent are just how they sound. And so hopefully that can be helpful. I don't know if there is, something like that could be helpful. I don't have anything specific at the moment, but hopefully that's helpful. So I'm just going to end here. There wasn't really any more questions, but have an opportunity for Patreon Q&A, both for SQPN patrons and my patrons. So that's a possibility. It's not determined yet. But anyways, I'll put this up and people can watch it later too. God bless. Jesus loves you.